everybody, I'm Stella Chung, and this is The Weekly Fix, the show where we round up all the gaming and entertainment headlines you may have missed this week. Resident Evil 4 Remake has added a new pay-to-win DLC to the game, plus we have information on the massive file size of Star Wars Jedi Survivor. In the entertainment world, tons of announcements have come out of this year's Star Wars celebration, and HBO Max and Discovery Plus are merging into one platform. Shout out to you, the viewer, and it's news in time. If you're playing through Resident Evil 4, then you know the struggle of finding the balance on choosing to upgrade your guns or just buy new ones to try them out and then figure out what all you want to put your pesetas into. Well, don't worry. Now there's new DLC for the remake that lets you upgrade your weapons with real money. Along with the much anticipated Mercenaries DLC, players can now use real money to upgrade weapon-exclusive upgrade tickets, which can be redeemed with the merchant to unlock perks like increased damage, faster firing rate, and more ammo capacity. These upgrade tickets can be purchased by trading Spinel gems with the merchant, but for prices high enough that you'll likely only grab one ticket per playthrough. And that's on top of having to max out a weapon's other upgrades using all the pesetas you collected in-game. But with these new paid tickets, you can immediately get access to that trait and upgrade free of charge. Well, free of charge in-game, but not in real life because you have to use real money. But okay, whatever, you know what I mean. These totally fair and not at all scummy upgrade tickets can be bought in singles or bundles with a single ticket costing $2.99. Okay, this could not have come at a worse time. I literally just wrote a column piece praising remakes. And really, the Resident Evil 4 remake is such a good game, this really leaves a bad taste. I have no doubt plenty of players will shell out extra money to save time grinding, but Capcom patching in such a sleazy cash grab soured my enthusiasm for the game just a little bit. I'll still be playing though, but only for Leon. If you're at all worried Capcom needed to add those microtransactions because Resident Evil 4 Remake wasn't selling well, think again. The remake has sold over 4 million copies worldwide in the 2 weeks it's been released. According to Alex Anil, writer of Itchy Tasty, An Unofficial History of Resident Evil 4 Remake is the second fastest selling Resident Evil in history, closely behind Resident Evil 6. Resident Evil 6 shipped 4.5 million copies at launch, but it didn't hit 5 million until 12 months later, which might have had something to do with its underwhelming reception from fans. In another tweet Anil posted, a comparison was shown on how long it took previous REs to hit 4 million units sold, and it took RE6 1 day, whereas Village took 3 weeks and Resident Evil 2 Remake took under 2 months. I was honestly surprised to see Resident Evil 3 Remake take 12 months to reach 4 million units sold. I really liked that game. I'd give it 5 stars. Capcom tweeted out the milestone and included the statement that they would continue to focus on growing sales of the title, including the release of the Mercenaries free downloadable content on April 7th. The Mercenaries is available now, letting players play as either Leon, Luis, Krauser, or Hunk in this wave-based defense challenge mode. This new mode may entice more players to join in on the Resident Evil 4 game purchases since numbers only seem to be growing, and may actually overtake RE6's record pretty soon. And there are still rumors the classic Ada Wong-centric side story Separate Ways might get added in a future update.
EA has revealed the PC system requirements for Star Wars Jedi Survivor alongside its colossal file size. Those looking to join Cal Kestis and the Mantis crew on their next adventure will need to clear 155 gigs of hard drive space. This makes Jedi Survivor even larger than the likes of Red Dead Redemption 2, which demands 150 gigs of available space for its vast open world and incredible level of detail. Jedi Survivor's predecessor, Fallen Order, required significantly less at just 55 gigs, a whole 100 gigs less. Now, it isn't the biggest PC game file size ever though. Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Black Ops Cold War each require 175 gigs. EA also shared the PC minimum system requirements as 8 gigs of RAM with a CPU equivalent of a Ryzen 5 1400 and a GPU equivalent of a Radeon RX 580. The recommended specs look for 16 gigs of RAM, a Ryzen 5 5600X equivalent CPU, and an RX 6700 XT equivalent GPU. We're just 3 weeks away from the launch of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and I, for one, am very excited. I just finished the Resident Evil 4 remake last night, and I need a new big game to play. Moving on, Sony has called the UK Competitions and Market Authority's reduced concern over Microsoft's Activision Blizzard deal, quote, surprising, unprecedented, and irrational. The CMA said last month that one of its key provisional concerns, that the deal would harm competition if Microsoft made Call of Duty an Xbox exclusive, is no longer an issue, prompting responses from both Sony and Microsoft. These responses have been released by the CMA today. Sony's statement reads, "The provisional findings assessed a significant body of evidence in the round to support its finding that Microsoft would have the ability and incentive to withhold Activision content, and this would substantially lessen competition by foreclosing PlayStation." It's a familiar statement, as since Microsoft first announced its intentions to buy Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion, Sony has raised concerns again and again over PlayStation users losing access to Call of Duty, or at least the best version of it. Xbox has denied this concern just as consistently, again reinforcing the point in its own response to the CMA. Its statement reads, "Microsoft has been clear since the announcement of the merger. It has no intention to withhold or degrade access to Call of Duty or any other Activision content on PlayStation. Such a strategy would be in direct contrast to the interests of gamers in the UK and around the world. Rather than limit choice or access, Microsoft intends to use the merger to bring more games to more people on more platforms and devices." It's the response then spends another 5 or so pages backing up the statement, while Sony spends another 10 refuting it. Arguments from both the PlayStation and Xbox sides will likely continue in the coming weeks, with a final decision expected by April 26th at the latest. So this whole thing should be settled by the time we're playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor. CD Projekt Red has rolled out a new, very high-end ray tracing feature for the PC version of Cyberpunk 2077. It's the Ray Tracing Overdrive mode, introduced in patch 1.62. The PC exclusive features are geared towards high-end rigs and will bring a quote, fully ray traced, aka path traced, rendering mode to the game. The developer states that the technology is capable of accurately simulating light throughout any given scene, taking into account the characteristics of emissions from an unlimited number of sources to create faithful shadows, reflections, and global illuminations. As a result, the full set of new features are extremely GPU intensive and will only be available on a limited number of NVIDIA cards. For now, Cyberpunk's Ray Tracing Overdrive mode is available for PC players sporting the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 40 series, that's 4070 Ti and up, and can be run at 30 frames per second at a resolution of 1080p on NVIDIA's GeForce RTX 3090. While PC players who have other ray tracing capable cards can't play with ray tracing on, they will be able to render fully path traced screenshots via the game's photo mode. CDPR has branded the release of the new features as a technology preview to reflect the fact that the developer is expecting the resource-intensive graphics features to have significant issues at launch. The CDPR blog reads, "It pushes the boundaries of what's possible in technology. However, because it is so new and fundamentally different from what we've been using so far, we know it's not going to be perfect from the start, and players might experience some issues." Patch 1.62 is available now. Moving on, a Persona 3 remake could be on the way based on new reports as well as what may be leaked footage. A sizzle reel appeared to leak over the weekend containing footage of remakes for both Jet Set Radio and Persona 3. Gematsu reports that a Persona 3 remake is indeed in development, though it couldn't corroborate the footage. Adding fuel to these reports, a Twitter user spotted a potential domain name in p3re.jp, which was registered in March. The domain is registered to the same provider as the Persona 5 Royal website. A Persona 3 remake has been requested by fans over the years. Both the main versions, the first one released on PlayStation 2, the second on PSP, are widely considered imperfect due to technical drawbacks and other limitations. An updated version of Persona 3 Portable was released for modern consoles back in January, though it was effectively a straight port with no new content. The original game was released back in 2006 and was the first in the Shin Megami Tensei sub-series to feature the school calendar and other mechanics that would become its calling card. It was subsequently followed by Personas 4 and 5, with each game being more popular than the last. Assuming the footage is real, we may learn more about the possible Persona 3 remake at Summer Game Fest, which is set to kick off in June. It may be joined by the Jet Set Radio remake, which Sega fan site SegaBits also claims is real.
Early this morning, Bethesda dropped a few details on how its upcoming supernatural shooter Redfall is going to run on consoles. If you're a frame rate nerd like me, you might not like this. At launch, Redfall will only have quality graphics mode that will cap the frame rate at 30 FPS across both the Xbox Series S and the more powerful Series X. You will be getting the max resolution of 4K on the Series X and 1440p on the Series S. But if you're hoping for buttery smooth 60 FPS or higher, you'll have to wait until Bethesda patches that in a future update. And speaking of the post-launch update, Bethesda is also working on getting rid of the always online requirement for the game, which will be the default at launch even when you're playing solo. No word yet on when Bethesda plans on providing a patch. Redfall is arriving exclusively for PC and Xbox Series consoles on May 2nd and will be available at no extra charge to Game Pass subscribers. The game's director, Harvey Smith, confirmed with IGN France that Redfall was in development for the PlayStation 5, but obviously things changed when Microsoft acquired Bethesda and they wanted to prioritize the Xbox versions. Most of the comments on our article for the story, of course, have been less than kind. User the Ace Joel 99 said, quote, "With dynamic resolution and upscaling readily available, I expect 60 FPS to be the minimum goal of modern video games." Do you agree? I certainly do. Does Redfall being capped at 30 FPS at launch change your plans for playing the game? Let me know in the comments. Well, that last story was a bummer for Xbox fans, but PlayStation gamers have something to celebrate this morning. Well, if you subscribe to the higher tiers of PS Plus, that is. If you have PS Plus Extra, which, remember, is the second tier right above the most basic PS Plus Essential plan, you're getting Kena Bridge of Spirits, Doom Eternal, Riders Republic, Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus, Wolfenstein The Old Blood, Slay the Spire, Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, The Evil Within, Bassmaster Fishing, Paradise Killer, and Sackboy: A Big Adventure. Some solid titles right there. Let's take a look at a few of them. Kena Bridge of Spirits is a gorgeous action-adventure title that arrived on the PS4 and PS5 back in 2021. We enjoyed it quite a bit, giving it an 8 out of 10, praising the combat with favorable comparisons to games like Okami and the 3D Zelda games. Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus is a first-person shooter that continues the alternate history story started in 2014's Wolfenstein The New Order. In this alternate version of 1960s America, the Nazis have won World War II and have taken over the United States. Wolfenstein The Old Blood is a standalone prequel set in 1946. The New Colossus received a 9.1 from us, while The Old Blood got a 7. And there's Paradise Killer, a murder mystery adventure set on the island of Paradise. It's like an open-world game mixed in with visual novel elements where you have to piece together the story yourself. We loved this game, giving it a 9 out of 10. Also, for premium subscribers, the original Doom, Doom 2, Doom 64, Doom 3, and Dishonored are being added to the Classics library. So PlayStation Plus is well and truly doomed this month. It's time to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got some brand new images from Joker 2, plus we dive into some of the biggest announcements from the recent Star Wars celebration. See you in a bit. Welcome back. HBO Max and Discovery Plus are being merged into one platform called Max. But first, tons of Star Wars news has come out of this past week from the annual Star Wars celebration. Let's find out some more.
Right now, Star Wars fans celebrate, like literally. It's Star Wars Celebration happening in London all week long. And we've got a ton of Star Wars news to break down, with new details emerging on new entries into the franchise that's not too far away. Starting with both Dave Filoni and James Mangold set to direct 2 separate upcoming Star Wars films. Now, detailing what we can expect further from each director, Filoni's movie will apparently close out the New Republic, tying up the stories told within the Disney Plus shows, The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and the upcoming Ahsoka series. Now, this is great news for Star Wars fans, as Filoni has been behind some of the franchise's most beloved recent entries, expanding the galaxy first in animated form with The Clone Wars and Rebels before breaking into live action with The Mandalorian, which he co-created with Jon Favreau. As for James Mangold's movie, it'll be set during the dawn of the Jedi, so tens of thousands of years before any of the other Star Wars movies or shows. Now, for Filoni, this will be a great way for the interconnected stories we've seen play out on the Disney Plus live-action offerings with Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, and soon Ahsoka to tie up any loose ends left on the small screen and potentially bring these characters together for a galactic battle fit for theaters. Now, that's a tall order, but if anyone is up for the task, it's Dave Filoni, who was a protege of George Lucas prior to the Disney era of Star Wars. Now, as for where this particular movie will fall in the overall timeline, after the events of Return of the Jedi and before The Force Awakens. Now, those are just 2 of the announced 3 Star Wars movies, so let's not forget about the 3rd. Directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, the Daisy Ridley starring project will center around Rey and where she is over a decade after the events witnessed in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Now, it'll apparently see Rey establishing a Jedi Academy to train a new group of Padawans in the way of the Jedi. Now, with the movie taking place in an unexplored Star Wars era known as the New Jedi Order, no relation to the pre-Disney non-canon Legends era, also titled New Jedi Order, it'll be up to Rey to rebuild what was lost. Very interesting seeing that particular story continue after the events of The Rise of Skywalker. As for what we can expect on the small screen, well, we did get a trailer for the upcoming Ahsoka series on Disney Plus. Now, this series, titled Star Wars Ahsoka, will feature the titular hero along with other Star Wars Rebels characters fans of the franchise will be familiar with. Now, it's really interesting seeing Lucasfilm adapt the Star Wars Rebels to live action, and fans of the 3D animated series are definitely in for a treat in August. Now, there will be something for older Star Wars fans too. Now, the show will feature the live-action debut of Grand Admiral Thrawn, and the name drop of Heir to the Empire is a pretty overt nod to the Timothy Zahn novel that helped launch the expanded universe in the early 90s. Now, we've known Andor would be getting a second season for a while now, and showrunner Tony Gilroy gave some updates. He said, quote, "We started shooting in November, we're about halfway through. We're going to shoot through August. We're on the exact schedule, finish in August, spend another year in post. I suppose we'll come out the following August." Now, those in attendance at the Star Wars celebration in London were treated with a few clips from the upcoming season, which will be its final season and is expected to tell an epic Star Wars story all the way up to the events of Rogue One. Now, Gilroy spoke about that, saying, quote, "If you know your ending, it really helps. There are a lot of shows that I love, and they're trying to figure out where they're going. We know where we're going. It's kind of like the escape from prison. You know where you're going." It's really great to have that sense of direction to steer the ship to the right destination. Now, we also got our first reveal of Star Wars Skeleton Crew with Jude Law in a younger cast. Now, it's been compared to a lot of 80s coming-of-age adventure movies like The Goonies. Now, no release date just yet for this one, but we can expect it sometime this year. And finally, set during the end of the High Republic era, Star Wars The Acolyte will be making its way to Disney Plus in 2024. Now, told from the perspective of the bad guys, this is the furthest back the Star Wars live-action franchise has gone. Though considering it's only a few hundred years before the prequels, there's a good chance Yoda shows up. And apparently one of the Jedi will be a Chewbacca, so that'll be fun to watch, right? Chewbaccas are fun. I know that's not the name of that's the name of the character, but that's what I'm calling him. He's Chewbacca to me forever. The force is clearly strong with the Star Wars franchise, as fans of the galaxy far, far away will be eating pretty damn good in the coming months and years. You know, assuming these movies don't get canceled. Yeah. HBO Max is now just called Max, thanks to IGN's very own Max Scoville, who met with Warner Brothers Discovery earlier this week to pitch that the company should drop its home box office acronym in favor of solely using his first name in reference to the streaming service. Although I wouldn't put it past him to do that, it's a complete lie. It's fake news, people. Now, the part about the name change is true, though. According to the New York Times, the streaming service is in fact set to relaunch as Max sometime in May or June, combining the libraries of both HBO Max and Discovery Plus. An ad-free subscription will cost $16 a month, with ad-supported and premium tiers available as well. To note, as of January, HBO Max costs $16, a price jump from its initial $15 price tag. So what does this semi-new service mean for subscribers? Well, we can definitely expect more content to appear on the service, but there's no guarantee HBO Max subscribers will be interested. Now, if you're into like reality shows, then you'll get a kick out of some of the offerings, as Discovery Plus offers shows from TLC, A&E, Lifetime, and a few others. Now, I know quite a few folks whose guilty pleasure is watching 90 Day Fiancé, so they'll be able to binge watch episodes and enjoy the drama from that program. But Discovery Plus is going to remain available as a standalone streaming service, and at just $7 a month, that may be all some viewers are interested in. Now, this whole idea behind the streaming platform merge was born from the Warner Media Discovery deal made last year, which cost a cool $43 billion. Now, with it, we saw big man on campus, Dave Zaslav, nixing certain shows and movies like the Batgirl film, chalking it up as a tax write-off. Now, that goes double for the animation wing of HBO Max, which was slapped with removal of shows like Close Enough, Infinity Train, and OKKO Let's Be Heroes. Now, with this rebrand losing the HBO in front of it, how do y'all feel about this? Is it even a good idea rebranding like this? It's really weird. Simply calling the service Max kind of, gives it like a generic feel. Not that Max is a generic name. I know a Max, he's a cool guy. There's nothing generic about him. except for the shirts that he wears. Ooh, burn! I'm just kidding, Max, I love you. Anyways, now we'll see what more information breaks on this and keep you posted. In the meantime, let us know your thoughts down below. In other streaming news, the John Wick spin-off The Continental is coming to Peacock. Now, the action-packed trailer sticks to its John Wick roots with tons of guns and bodies flying in every direction. And no premiere date just yet, but we do know that it'll be a 3-part event. The show will be a throwback, with the series taking things back to the 1970s following a young Winston Scott. Now, it's nice to see the John Wick universe expand onto the small screen, and we'll also be getting a new spin-off movie entitled Ballerina. As for John Wick Chapter 5, stay tuned. Also, just go see Chapter 4 first and then stay tuned. Now, from one action arena to the next, we got the voice cast of the first entry into the DCU reboot coming from James Gunn and Peter Safran. Creature Commandos will feature the likes of David Harbour, Zoe Chow, Frank Grillo, and more taking up arms and taking on roles in the animated series. Now, the cast is also joined by Sean Gunn, reprising his role as Weasel from the Suicide Squad live-action film. Now, during the announcement of Creature Commandos, James Gunn said he's looking to cast voice actors who can make the jump to live action, reprising their roles from the animated show, so it's no surprise to see his brother thrown into the mix. Now, don't be too surprised if we also start seeing some of the voice casts make their way into future live-action DC movies or shows. Now, the sequel to 2019's Joker is on track to release October 4th of next year, as director Todd Phillips has confirmed the film wrapped filming and is set for post-production. Now, with the film's wrap, Phillips posted 2 new looks at Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix as Harley Quinn and Joker respectively. Now, the first image is of Harley Quinn in full-on clown makeup, leaving no question that we'll be seeing Harleen Quinzel fully transform into Harley Quinn, as her mental state seemingly descends into madness due to the influence of Arthur Fleck, aka the Joker. Now, this is actually the second official look we've gotten of Lady Gaga from the director. Now, Todd Phillips previously shared a photo on Valentine's Day giving us our first glimpse of the psychotic couple, though in that one she hadn't yet donned the clown makeup. Now, that was her as Dr. Harleen Quinzel, with Todd sharing a more close-up picture of her as Harley Quinn to celebrate the film's wrap. Now, Joker fans might remember this photo of Harley Quinn walking down the court steps, likely at some sort of protest to possibly free Arthur Fleck from whatever legal troubles he might be dealing with. Now, the second image we got to celebrate the film's wrap on production was of the Joker, who appears to be seated in one of those gated penitentiary buses, possibly on his way to Arkham Asylum, where he'll be issued the finest in convict clothing. Probably black and white stripes. I doubt orange is his color. Anyway, between the first film and the images Todd Phillips has teased, we have some idea what this movie will look like, but few details are actually known about what audiences can expect from the plot of the film. All we know is that it'll be a psychological thriller with musical elements thrown in for good measure. Now, how that'll play out remains to be seen. Now, with Lady Gaga in the mix, it's no surprise there'll be musical elements throughout the film. Definitely a different take from what we've gotten in the past pertaining to Harley Quinn, as we've only gotten Margot Robbie's take on the DC villain on the big screen. Now, it definitely seems as though Phillips might be going for a take on the character somewhat similar to DC Black Label's Harleen comic run, which explores Harley Quinn's past before her transformation. Now, that particular story dives deeper into how her abusive past affected her and how the Joker was able to manipulate her. Now, I'm definitely excited to see a different take on the Harley Quinn character that doesn't have that signature accent we've heard for many years now, stemming from Arlene Sorkin's portrayal of the character in the Mad Love episode of Batman the Animated Series. Now, since then, various voice actresses have taken on the role, adding subtle nuances to make it their own, but usually sticking pretty close to the original. Now, we'll see what Lady Gaga gives us in Joker Folie à Deux. To note, the movie will be part of the new DC Elseworlds set of films, which exists outside the scope of the mainline DCU movies James Gunn and Peter Safran have planned. All right, Mamma Mia, moving on, Mario's breaking blocks and box office records, scoring an estimated $368 million globally since it opened last week. Now, with those numbers, the Super Mario Bros. Movie has officially had the largest worldwide opening for any animated film. Now, here in the States, it earned $195 million over the course of 5 days, with an international intake of $173 million. Now, the movie Super Smash Frozen 2's $358 million record for biggest worldwide opening of any animated movie, and it'll likely overtake a few other records as it continues its box office run in the weeks to come. Now, if we're just looking at domestic numbers, however, the Mario movie couldn't surpass The Incredibles 2, which is sitting at $180 million over a 3-day period. Now, with the Mario movie at $137 million in the same time period. Now, the movie is undoubtedly a box office success, which likely means Nintendo will be eyeing more movies within the Mario galaxy and potentially big screen adaptations of other beloved franchises. Now, Jack Black is already thinking about a sequel and who he'd like to see cast as Wario. Speaking with GameSpot, he suggested Pedro Pascal as the perfect candidate for the villainous Mario character. Now, honestly, I would definitely love to see if Pedro Pascal can Wario wear those britches. Yeah, now the pretty big rotund overalls to fill.
I'm Stella Chung, and that was your weekly fix. We'll be back here next Saturday with more of the biggest gaming and entertainment news of the week. See you then.